The following was recorded in late November of 2025. I had been off the air for a while to build a sports network and do some other things to work on the business, not in the business, for a little while. So Verlie and I had not sat down at the microphone for a while. And then, lo and behold, she brings this amazing oatmeal concoction she makes in the morning. I think it's wet oatmeal. And I had just worked out and I was starving. And that's how it opens up. And then Verlie and I, kind of like old friends who hadn't seen each other in a while, and we just start talking. And here it is from late November of 2025, which is kind of cool. And let's talk to our good friend Verlie Suggs. Verlie, how are you?
I'm great, Jim. How are you?
I'm better now that you brought me a gift pack.
Oh, you're welcome.
I was so hungry. I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, I don't know if I'm going to make the show. And in comes, and not only does she bring me this food, but do you want these Glad things back or no?
No, not necessary.
Really?
I buy them in bulk.
I'm going to say, I think my wife uses them for her job and takes her lunches in what you gave me the oatmeal in. So
Fantastic.
I'm still chewing, as you could tell.
So the Hard Rock is really doing really well. We were there the other night because we went to dinner at the steakhouse and then sat at the slots for a minute. I lost my little $40, but Mike put in and he won right away. So we took off after that. Saw Mike Schufert there, which was really nice. And then we're going to go again on Friday because the NAACP is having their annual banquet, the Gary NAACP. So Together's going to be there. I have to check them out as well.
Yeah, Friday. So you'll be able to go.
It's going to be packed on Friday then because they have this banquet going on, Together going on, and people are just coming from everywhere to stop at the Hard Rock and gamble.
And I mean, how do you get Sting on
That's fantastic.
a Sunday night?
Well, it's probably cheaper to get him on a Sunday night than a Friday or a Saturday night.
That's true. He's probably playing the United Center on Friday. I don't know if he's in Chicago. I haven't heard of him being in Chicago.
I don't know how close a distance they'll do concerts consecutively. I don't know.
How you been?
Great.
Hey, the band's back together.
Oh, you did?
Me and you.
Yes, I know.
And nobody's here to tell us what to do. You know what I mean? I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to say thank you to Verlie and to Adriana and to Michelle Quinn for letting me go over and work on the sports network. And one of the main things was the rebranding of it and then the hiring of some people to take over marketing. I would have never been able to get that done if I had to wake up at 4:20 and come in and do a show and then do podcasts and all that. So I want to thank you guys. I mean, I know that it takes a village to run a radio station and now a podcast network. And without your help and everybody else's, I wouldn't have been able to go do that.
Well, it was truly our pleasure. Of course, what they said is not going anywhere. So we'll be on from time to time. And it's just great to be back with you as well.
Yeah, and I forget. I mean, is it like next week you guys are on without me, or is it fourth Tuesday or something?
I think it's the fourth Tuesday.
Yeah, so I won't be here with you next Tuesday, but she'll be here with Michelle Quinn and Adriana. And I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you guys, especially Michelle has a way of angering people at times. And I thought you had a kind of a monopoly on that in Kuziak. But no, Michelle Quinn gets put into that category also, partly because she's got pretty strong opinions.
Well, she has strong opinions, and people want to question her credibility, but she's extremely credible. And then, also there's always they call them usually the mean girls, but it's not, here it's the mean guys. People who feel that they have to make fun of somebody. It's so juvenile, but Michelle can handle it.
I do want to talk about one thing before we go to the phone lines. And thank you for calling. I'll get to you guys in just a second. But I want to open up the show today talking about the redistricting aspect. And part of the reason is that if you guys understand what happened, President Trump basically told red states, why don't you guys get together early and redistrict so that we can get more seats in Congress. And that worked in Texas and a couple other places. But two huge states said no to him. And the front page article on the Wall Street Journal is using Kansas and Northwest Indiana as an example of people departing from Trump and starting to treat him as a lame duck president. Now, that's the Wall Street Journal. I'm not altogether sure. I think that's a kind of premature if you're a Democrat to start hoping for that. But it was a big step for Indiana not to redistrict to get rid of, to spank Frank.
It was, I don't even want to say it was to spank Frank. It was to bend the knee to Donald Trump. I don't think it would have made a difference what Democrat was in office. They wanted to get rid of him. And so here comes a governor who is so up the president's that he does not see what's best for his state. And now, he has to bear the wrath of Trump because he wasn't strong enough to get the senators here in the state legislation to come together and do this.
I was so surprised. I mean, and part of the reason was the day before that happened, or 2 days before that happened, I host the Jim Weezer podcast. It's called WIESER, and you could go on to Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, and you can listen to Weezer talk about his opinions as being a longtime Democratic elected official and kind of backroom guy and that kind of thing. And he said, he goes, Jim, it's going to get done. They'll all cave. I mean, I am paraphrasing. He was wrong.
He was wrong. And what's going to be really interesting is the next governor's race, because the rumor out there is that Tom McDermott will probably be going for the governor's seat. And will the fallout against Trump that took place in this last election, will it affect the state of Indiana? And will McDermott have a chance?
I mean, didn't we vote for Obama?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this might be the time, the opportunity. The Mayor Hammond wants a statewide position. He comes out and runs against Braun, who is making some unpopular decisions. Who knows?
In a weird way, a little bit.
And if he has a buy on his ticket, then, and I don't mean a BUY, then that's an added plus.
All right, so Tom McDermott running for governor as a Democrat in the state of Indiana seemed like almost kind of like a joke 5 years ago or 10 years ago, okay? First of all, maybe he didn't kind of reach that status, I guess. And second of all, it's like we're like a 61% Republican state, right? But it was less than 20 years ago that we elected Barack Obama from this state. Part of it, I forget even who they were running against, but it wasn't a real popular Republican. And I forget who it was.
McCain?
McCain, yeah. So from a marketing standpoint, as you guys know, I do the Mastering Local Marketing podcast every Thursday with Matt Hansen. And he has me thinking in certain terms of like, well, what'll work? What's a strategy? What's a strategy? If I was advising a Republican right now, I would be like, all right, come here. What is it you want to do? Well, I'd like to get elected and maybe get elected to a higher office or maybe solidify my position. And I would ask, is the best thing for you to do that right now, to work, lay down for Donald Trump and show your fealty to Donald Trump, or is the best thing right now to show your independence from Donald Trump? And I would say that you could probably hedge your bets. You could kind of stay in the Trump fold, but Trump came out and named Indiana Republicans, and several of them, that he wants to go after them and he wants to primary them. I mean, these are just people that like live down the street from the school and they go to the library and they're just like state reps and state senators, and he wants to go after them. I don't think that it hurt those people to stand up to him. I think that the next stage for Republicanism will be trying to find the people that were able to maintain their independent voice during the kind of Trump years where Trump had the hold on the Republican Party. Your thoughts?
Well, I would say that their constituents, I'm sure, reached out to them at some point. And so they are supporting what the voters support. And regardless to what Donald Trump wants, people are starting to distance themselves. I mean, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Unbelievable, the little petty tantrum that's taking place between the two of them, name calling and what have you. She was one of his staunchest supporters. But the minute you step out of line and question something that the president does, you become his bitter enemy. And that took place in his last administration when people were leaving office and writing books, tell-all books, and then he tried to diminish their character. That's what he does. If anyone is intelligent enough to realize that his character is the main character that is questionable, then they would see through him. But a lot of people haven't yet. But I think in time, they're going to whittle away the influence of Donald Trump on the Republican Party. And then we can actually look at our country again and say that the possibility of good leadership, sound leadership, is taking place. Because I question him. Bombing these boats out in this. How do you know who's on these boats? And what happened to due process? How do you just see something, say the boat's laden with drugs, even if it is, and you don't even arrest anybody, you just kill them? Is that the society that we want now? That if someone commits a crime or allegedly commits a crime, that they are automatically taken out? I think he's watched too much Tom Clancy movies. He's watched too many Tom Clancy movies or read, and I doubt if he's read too many Tom Clancy books. I practically have read every single one. And so what he is doing is just out of one of them practically.
I don't go as far as you do on the kind of the anti-Trumpness, but just from a marketing standpoint, that you can feel it. Front page of the Wall Street Journal today. By the way, if you're listening to this at another time, this is being recorded on November 18th of 2025. And I'm just charging my phone so I don't have it, but I read it this morning, and they specifically mentioned Kansas and Indiana. And then I saw one of the talking heads on one of the shows say, well, it's not that surprising because Kansas, although a red state, has always had a really independent streak, and so has Indiana. They're kind of like the two most independent, thinking red states. I'm kind of proud of the Republicans that stood up on this because they did it. I'm extremely
proud of them. Definitely. You have to remember.
Hold on a second. Pull that mic back up. Sorry. There you go.
Mitch Daniels and the former vice president came out of Indiana. And the fact that both of them have stood up against some of the things that are taking place within the Republican Party just shows you that all Republicans do not follow Donald Trump mindlessly.
It kind of looks like our governor does and Todd Rokita do.
But not all do. But Todd Rokita will be on his way out, hopefully, and so will the governor, hopefully.
Yeah, I just, I disagreed with Weezer. I'm like, Jim, Indiana is a lot of people that really, I mean, there's a lot of truly, deep down Republicans that want to follow Donald Trump, but there's a lot of people that I always put them in. And I got a bunch of cousins in and around Indianapolis. They're in the leave me alone Republicans. I don't want to deal. Just leave me alone. I'm a conservative person with my finances, with my morals, with my life. I'm married and I live a reasonably staid life. And some of this kind of stuff that is like all swirled up and there's constant weird things happening. They just can't handle the pace. If anything else, I keep talking about the pace. And I'm like, these Republicans, like my cousin Dwayne and like all of my family, I feel like they're kind of getting tired of it. And I'm not sure what it is.
Well, as it should be, because, I mean, if you put Donald Trump as your example of morality, then you definitely have no clue what morality is.
All right. So on the other side, it's pretty clear that your Democratic Party, I don't even know what they stand for right now. I don't know a plan.
They stand for working people. They stand for everyone being able to provide food on the table for their families, health care in the event that someone gets ill, being able to have affordable homes and housing. They stand for jobs, job creation. They stand for unions and making sure that everyone has the opportunity to have a good life. They stand for a balanced lifestyle.
So I think you and I have talked about this, and I think it came down to a real big argument once where we were kind of mad at each other. And
Jim, I could never get mad at you.
You know how many things it really agitate Verlie about what I do? And one of those is eating on the air. So I'm going to take a big swig right now.
It's that language that really gets to me, though.
Yeah. So here's how on the other side. All right, let's look at what we have here. We have a congressman, Frank Mervan, that is pretty much almost like a centrist Democrat. He's got some Republicans that switched over and will vote for him, and it's kind of what pushes him forward and kind of makes him tough to beat, even though they really want to beat him, right? So you got kind of a centrist Democrat here. And then you go to New York City, and they elect what is a Democratic socialist. So that's way to the left. And by the way, I want to give a plug for Des Bishop, the Bishop Exchange. The Bishop Exchange, Des Bishop is my son-in-law's, brother-in-law, and I know him, and he's a comedian. He grew up in Ireland and New York, and he and this soccer player dude that I know, I've met him before. They're kind of celebrities in England and Ireland, but they do a podcast called The Bishop Exchange, and you got to go listen to it. And Des Bishop, in the latest episode, made the point. He's like, I live in and around New York and West Hampton, and he goes, this guy, Mamdani, is really not doing anything different than what they do in a number of European cities and countries that are doing really well, like Stockholm and, all the Northern European and all these countries that are kind of democratic socialists, and they have certain policies. And I started to think about it. I go, all right, so I look at it like we were talking about kind of two directions for the Republican Party. I think there's even a more clear-cut direction change for the Democratic Party. You have the Frank Mervan centrist Democrat in the middle of the country. He even has Republicans come over and vote for him. And then you have Mamdani, who's got all the young people all excited and everything as a democratic socialist. I'm not altogether sure those people are even on the same path.
And they may very well not be, just like most Republicans are not all on the same path. But this is what this country's built on.
Yeah,
and
but
so
I don't know how your party,
But what works in New York may not necessarily be what works in Indiana.
So how do you put those two groups together?
Well, I don't think that everyone has to be in. See, this is what happened with the Republican Party. Everyone got in lockstep behind Donald Trump, regardless to what they did. There was no filter. He just did it. If the Democrats have the people who think like AOC or the people who think like Frank Mervan, that to me is more of what this country is based on, where people have different ways. You can debate the issues. You can come together for common causes. That's what California is different from New Hampshire. So let's have representation from what this country actually looks like.
All right, speaking of representation, I want this on this segment of our podcast. Last week,
What podcast?
that's what this is now. We just tape little sections and it goes up, and all you got to do is go to Jim Deedlow and then it'll be there. Pretty soon it'll be Verlie Unplugged, but we won't get into that. Verlie, here's one that you and I, and we'll preview the next section too, is that the Catholic bishops came out and they said that they rebuked America as a country, even the bishops that are here, they're not Canadian or Mexican or whatever, they rebuked America for basically forgetting about the human dignity of people in the mass deportation and the ripping apart of families and how it's done. And for me, that was a wake-up call. You know, we're both pretty heavy Catholic, and I don't really want to think about the fear that people are living under and the families that have been ripped apart. You should have seen on a Friday, Kuziak had this family in, and the little girl was in juvenile, and she was a citizen, and it took a while for them to get through it, and they just ripped them in and threw them basically in jail. And then the meter reader in Cicero, he comes on there, he goes, man, I couldn't remember the hospital I was born in Berwyn, and so they threw me in the tank, you know what I mean? And I think that the bishops brought to light something I didn't personally want to look at or think about. And that is, am I part of a country right now that is losing sight of human dignity?
Most definitely.
And I don't know what to follow my church, or in my philosophy, follow my church or follow my country. And when I come on the air, I've got a specific, I got a platform. People are going to listen to what I say, and I try to think it through. And typically, I just say, hey, this is America. These are the rules, and this is what we're doing. And we elect, the whole system's set up like this. And if we voted for people that want to do this and just rip people out of their homes in that way, criminals or not, and then it did not come real until I'm like, man, now my church is telling me this. And it reminds me of Father Weiss when I was a kid. I'm sitting there in like third grade and fourth grade and fifth grade. You know what it's like when you listen to the same priest all the time. And his whole thing was, you remember this as you get older. You follow the laws of God before the laws of man. And I'm like, holy moly, Father Weiss is like hanging over me right now. Anyways, how about you?
Advice. Let's take a break.
That was from late November of 2025. It was just Verlie and I just kind of talking early in the morning. And then, of course, we would go on to the rest of the show and take calls and that kind of thing. So I hope you like it. Don't forget, you can go to Apple or Spotify anytime and you can listen to my stuff. Just type in Jim Deedlow, Dedelow, and there it is. Till next time, see you later.